Eric Lanask here in Miami. We're at ITEXPO and IoT Evolution Expo. On the program with me today from Splunk is Brian Gilmore. Brian, thanks for being on the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
So I have had several conversations with different members of your team. I'm not sure that I recall specifically having a conversation around IoT. Yet when I look at your business card, there it is, Internet of Things.
Sure.
How did that happen?
Well, I am the first employee at Splunk to actually have Internet of Things on my business card, but we've actually been led to the Internet of Things and M2M by our customers. We started to see a lot of interesting use cases coming from them as they were taking, Splunk's machine data platform that they were already using in their environments for analyzing traditional IT machine data sources, and we're applying it to these new IoT and M2M machine data sources that they had on their networks.
So just a very logical, natural evolution.
It was. Yeah, I mean, it's semantically logged data. It's time-stamped. It contains some information. It contains a lot of metadata about that data, things like latitude and longitude for location information, affiliations, both loose and specific. And, having data like that streams into Splunk gives you, real-time insight into, the operations, security, and business processes and things like that. And so it has been a pretty natural evolution for us.
Given that you're, as you say, led towards IoT with some of your customers, are there specific use cases or examples that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had a couple really interesting ones. New York Air Brake is a customer of ours who's made a lot of noise. They index the data coming off of the control systems from the locomotives and the braking systems in Splunk. They use Splunk rather than a traditional historian so that they can pull in a lot of ancillary data sources as well, data from the back offices of the railroads, data from their train simulators, and they mash all this data up. Their engineers have the capability to do some what-if analysis, and they use it to build these algorithms, which they call the golden run. It's the optimum driving strategy for a train in a particular configuration from point A to point B. They actually monitor in Splunk as well the driver's compliance with that algorithm as they're driving. They report that back to the railways so the railways can mitigate, they can retrain, they can let people know that it's really important to follow these strategies, because when they do, they're seeing like 5 to 8% fuel savings per segment. I think New York Air Brake has talked about them having a $1 billion ROI for their customers using this process, and we've sort of pressed them on that as that's a big number, right? But I mean, one of their customers uses more diesel fuel than the United States Navy. So when you're talking about 5% or 8% savings, and they're just like, imagine we could roll this out across all railroads.
Gee, and I thought it was just a matter of push and go, and the train goes and it stops when it gets to its destination.
It's not. It's a very sophisticated application running across the country. I mean, there's interplay between the cars, there's push and pull. It essentially moves like a giant slinky. And then you have all of the data coming off the control systems and the brakes, and it's really not much different than any other type of process analytics.
How has the company, Splunk meaning the company, had to adapt now with the sort of migration of the product into the IoT world?
It's a great question. I mean, there are new data sources. I mean, a lot of IoT data is being put straight to text files, or it's available on TCP or UDP. The sources that we've traditionally had so much success with. But a lot of it is locked in proprietary legacy systems. We brought on a lot of partners. We brought on a partner, Kepware Technologies, who's produced an application called the Industrial Data Forwarder for Splunk that streams real-time data from 150 of the most common legacy industrial data protocols from companies like GE and Honeywell, and we can also access a lot of the open legacy protocols like Modbus and BACnet for data center infrastructure data. We partnered with ThingWorx as well, who's a big they're a sponsor here as well. And sort of they've built an interoperability between the ThingWorx environment and the Splunk environment, where you can do anything now in ThingWorx that you could ever do in Splunk, which is really powerful, passing data back and forth. It lets customers look at Splunk as an integral component of an IoT application. We even have smaller sort of startup partners like Carvoyant makes a little ODB2 dongle that plugs into your car, and for a very small price a year will stream real-time data from your car into Splunk. So you can, a company that uses Splunk to manage their server farms can also use Splunk to manage now their vehicle fleets and see how performance in vehicles is changing, see if they can see patterns, things like that.
Does it open up new opportunities in terms of potential customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we'll definitely have an opportunity to be more. The partnerships definitely bring us more, I would say, credibility. People understand the concept of big data and machine data analytics and these sort of global views into their environments. But you know, an operations technology or an operations manager in a plant is not going to let a big data system come in and plug up to their critical infrastructure. So working with companies that have credibility and have experience and legacy in those spaces definitely helps out there and opens us up to sort of a whole new market of opportunity. I think as we look at sort of the more consumer side of the IoT as well, we have support now for things like MQTT and AMQP and Amazon Kinesis, Apache Kafka, and as those companies are building out their sort of end-to-end infrastructures as well, that will let them plug Splunk in and do the analytics and get the value out of the data that they're generating in their environments as well.
And it really is interesting to see, and it will continue to be interesting as new use cases emerge. What people really are doing with the data and with the sensors.
Yeah, it's amazing. Splunk has been used very successfully in operations and security and business analytics use cases, and IoT is a very powerful supporting data source for those use cases that we've had great success in. I mean, one of our customers, Royal Flying Doctor Service, they're a private airline, private airplanes, private airfields, and they fly medicines and doctors to patients in rural areas in Australia. They actually have created a program called By the Sky. It's like Adopt the Highway, right? And so they're monitoring the position of these planes with Splunk, and when Splunk recognizes that a airplane has flown through a certain geometry that somebody has sponsored, it kicks off a job in Salesforce, and it sends the person an email and says, thank you so much for supporting the By the Sky program. A life-saving flight went through. At the same time, they're monitoring the engine data that they're pulling off, the technicians are pulling off the engines, the temperatures of the vaccines and the medicines in flight, all in Splunk. They have one single pane of glass, single point of truth that they can go to for sort of all these multiple services.
Excellent. Very, very exciting stuff. Congratulations on being the first person with IoT on your business
Well, thank
card.
you very much. I will not be the last, I promise so.
Good. Well, I appreciate you being here on the program. It's been fantastic having you.
Cool. Thanks so much. Nice meeting you.